Have we ever had a Prime Minister with less idea when it comes to the defence of Australia than Anthony Albanese? Scott Morrison got it. Even Kevin Rudd, I'm told Julia Gillard, she had a worldview, and John Howard, well, enough said. But the current bloke, I mean, seriously, here he was today at one of his many out-in-the-street media conferences, blathering away about how we have already increased spending on blah, blah, blah.
Well, we have increased our defence investment. We've increased it by $57 billion over the medium term and by more than $10 billion in the short term as well.
But what he wasn't addressing was this from our most powerful ally, the nation with, as we have seen in the past week, with the most powerful military, you know, bunker-busting missiles, stealth fighter jets, aircraft carriers, all things we don't have. Here was White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responding to a question from obviously an Australian reporter in the White House press room.
How does the NATO result impact negotiations with Asia-Pacific allies?
If our allies in Europe and our NATO allies can do it, I think our allies and our friends in the Asia-Pacific region can do it as well.
In plain speak, she is saying, look, NATO has agreed with Mr. Trump to lift spending on defence so that they don't have to sponge off us, the US. So I would expect, she speaks for the President, by the way, that's her job, I would expect that our allies and friends in the Asia-Pacific can do it as well. So what is it that our Prime Minister doesn't understand? American experts, expects Australia to spend more than it does now out of its budget on defence. Now, Pete Hesketh told us that in Singapore a few weeks back. NATO listened and acted, and we are still getting this sort of wimpy response.
What we're doing is making sure that Australia has the capability that we need. That's what we're investing in. We'll continue to do that, invest in our capability and invest in our relationships.
Please, God help us. Now, last night, filling in for Andrew Bolt, I had on the program retired four-star General Jack Keane. He was on the show and he told me this.
I think is very much needed is a national discussion on defence and how Australia contributes to the collective defence of the region against this aggressor, as we know, is preparing for war and not just threatening war and giving themselves a time date of 2027 to make certain they can exercise a war plan. That's all real. And this isn't fiction. This isn't speculation. This is real threat.
So Jack Keane gets it. We need to muscle up was his message. He says we need to join with Japan and India and South Korea to make sure China knows that if they take on one of us, they take on all of us. Now, I'll talk to Peter Jennings in a second. He's been banging on about this forever, as has every defence expert, military veterans, and, of course, the late Senator Jim Molan. He wrote a book about it, for God's sake. I mean, someone, anyone, needs to sit the Prime Minister down and tell him some home truths. Or was Jack Keane right when he said left-leaning socialist governments are more interested in social projects and spending money on those than on defence? I suspect Jack was spot on.